Welcome again to the Conservative Historian. I wanted to talk today about a fairly controversial subject. A subject that has been extremely controversial for the past 30 years and even decades before that. And that is the topic of climate change. Before we get into the particulars, I wanted to talk a little bit though about ancient history, and I mean really, really ancient, well beyond the written record. I wanted to talk about geologic history. So let me start off with a period in time called the Paleozoic Era. The Paleozoic Era ended around 200 million years ago with the destruction of 90% of the species upon this planet. Now, what caused that destruction? More than likely, it was climate change. One theory says is the seas grew colder. It is speculative about what exactly caused that. What is not speculated is the Paleozoic Era ended with that level of extinction. After the Paleozoic came the Mesozoic Era. 3 periods within the Mesozoic Era: the Triassic, the Jurassic, and the Cretaceous. Most people have heard of the Jurassic, but they don't think that they realize that the Jurassic is actually a period within the Mesozoic Era. Now, in that particular period, the Jurassic period, the Earth was dominated by giant dinosaurs called sauropods. Diplodocus, Brachiosaurus, Apatosaurus. These were the big lizards with the giant necks and the long tails, and the largest land animals to ever walk the earth. But by the 3rd period of the Mesozoic Era, called the Cretaceous Era, the sauropods themselves were gone. Now, the Mesozoic Era itself ended more than likely because a meteor struck the planet. The devastation in the end of the Mesozoic Era came much faster than the end of the Paleozoic Era, implying something far more cataclysmic. But either way, these eras ended. Why do I go through all this geologic history? Because a distinction needs to be made between climate change, that popular term, and human-made climate change. The Earth is always changing. The climate is always going to be altered. Where I'm recording this today at one point used to be under a sheet of ice, a glacier 30 feet high. The glacier's gone. Now, not for a second do I believe that mankind has not had an effect on this planet. It is very difficult to believe that cutting down vast amounts of forests, spewing CO2s and other gases into the atmosphere would not have an effect on this planet, and a deleterious one. There is certain scientific data showing a warming pattern, and a warming pattern much faster, and much more profound than anything we have seen hitherto. Therefore, I believe in human-made climate change, and I believe that if you will, effect is probably deleterious to the planet. So that leads us to 2 different questions. What exactly is that human-made effect? And what are we going to do about it? Now, a few comments about the climate change movement as it exists today. As of this recording, April 2020, the entire world is encountering a pandemic called the coronavirus. And one of the interesting things that has occurred, especially within the United States, is a new reliance on experts. I'm going to call out one in particular. Dr. Anthony Fauci has become a trusted, a believed, a relied upon figure during the coronavirus pandemic within the United States. Dr. Fauci is a 79-year-old disease expert who has seen it all, served under 6 presidents, and has built up a level of credibility that is impressive to behold. I contrast that with the climate change movement. Part of the success of Dr. Fauci is whenever he makes his predictions, he always stipulates that the data is not complete. He's still waiting for more data. Therefore, some of his models have come through, Some of them have hit fairly close to his numbers and others have not. But he always stipulated that these are worst case scenarios and these are best case scenarios. That's one key difference. Not this alarmism and not this concept that it will be this exact number. And then when he doesn't hit the number, people then have an opening for attack and discrediting. One of the things that has dominated the climate change movement is those predictions. And when they don't come true, the so-called deniers have, if you will, substance now for denying the ability of climate change people to prognosticate and denying the entire movement. That's a mistake. The second piece on that is Dr. Fauci is clearly an expert. He is the lead voice right now on the coronavirus pandemic. I contrast that again with the climate change movement, who for some unknown reason has decided to put the entire movement on the shoulders of a 16-year-old girl. Understand, having a child out there, if you will, epitomizes the challenge that is in front of us, epitomizes the dangers that climate change could present to our children. So I understand using that voice, but that credibility is just not going to be there. There has never truly, not Al Gore, not other pundits, and certainly not a 16-year-old girl, there has never been that truly trusted and believed voice within the movement. And the movement would do well to try to identify that voice. I have a question, and this question fundamentally brings out the seriousness of people within the climate change movement. This question is critical, and here it is. How many reactors do we need? Let me repeat that question. How many reactors do we need? Obviously, I'm talking about nuclear power. And this is absolutely critical to the success of any climate change movement. Think about this. The technologies that are currently in place today, wind, solar, hydroelectric powers, these are clean energies. There is value in them, but there is no way that in 10, probably not in 20, maybe 30 years, that they will replace the fossil fuel infrastructure upon which most people on Earth get their power. Not even talking about the United States, I'm talking about China, I'm talking about India, I'm talking about Africa, I'm talking about South America, even vast parts of Europe. Nuclear power is clean energy. Nuclear power is vast resources of energy. Nuclear power fundamentally is the answer. Now, understood. Lots of concerns about that. There was the 3 Mile Island incident that occurred almost 40 years ago. No fatalities. There was the incident within Japan, not nearly so long ago. Only 1 fatality. I can already hear it. Chernobyl. Chernobyl is definitely a case study and a huge concern about the turn to nuclear power. Yet it could also be a case study in safety protocols around the use of nuclear power. If the climate change movement is serious, then the climate change movement needs to become serious about nuclear power. Understood too that there is concerns about education. That is why, again, you need that person who is of credibility, that person who can lead the movement. It can't be a person like Tom Steyer, an ex-hedge fund manager who made money off of fossil fuels. Too easy. It can't be an ex-vice president. It needs to be an expert. It needs to be somebody who is trusted. It needs to be somebody who's experienced. And it needs to be somebody who doesn't create a system of alarmism that opens themselves up to easy attacks. And it needs to be somebody who believes in nuclear power. Thank you.